Okay, so let me explain you how some things work here in Gwent. Of course, we are talking about Frost, well, not Frost, but in this case, let's say Frost. So basically, when you, let's say, click on this card, you will see here Resilience, Deploy, Order, Spawn, Devotion, etc. Now, Resilience means when you play this card in your round, and then it will stay, well, present in the next round as well, so it exists there. Deploy, which means there is some ability that will happen the moment you put this card on the battlefield. Now you should know that if your opponent has a trap, for example, your deploy ability is activated first, and then his trap card will work, for example. Now, order means that you can click on it, as you already know. So you click and you do something with it. In this case, you're going to spawn a card, which is this card. Spawn means you're making something that is not originally in your deck. So this card can exist in your deck if you choose that, but nonetheless, it's creating a new copy of the card or standalone card for that matter. Okay, actually all that I just told you is on the right side as well, but I'm simply explaining it to you. Now let's see, we got this guy. So basically, again, when you deploy him, something will happen. However, you should take a notice. When you hold this in your hand or in your deck, if the first round passes, he will transform into this, okay? So he has a different deployability now. Now, it says Devotion. Devotion means when you have no neutral cards. So if your deck is fully monster, that's what Devotion is, or it can be if you're playing a Syndicate or, I don't know, Nilfgaard. If it says Devotion, it means there are no neutral cards, only the cards of that faction, which means in this case, if there is, at the start of the round, while in hand or deck, evolve. Evolving will happen to the last round as well. Now, this is the strongest version of this card, because when you deploy this card, you will create a Bronze Wild Hunt unit from your starting decks. So we talk about bronze cards, and whenever you play a Wild Hunt unit, you will boost it by 1. So let's say there is Frost on the opposite side. So when you put your Wild Hunt unit, it will be boosted by 1 default because there is Frost, and +1 because of this dude. Okay, now let's see, we have this guy. Of course, this is not complete build, actually deck. That's why I have this insect in my Frost deck. Basically, he will, as maybe you already read, he will gain armor equal to the number of cards in your hand. When all the armor is lost, he will just banish, not banish, kind of die. Let's see what else is important here. Now, this card, of course, is randomly looking at 2 golden cards in your deck, and you choose one and you play that one, and the other one is moved to the top. Okay, so kind of simple. You have echo cards like this one. Now, echo card is when I play this card, let's say any round, first round for instance, I will spawn Frost on both enemy rows for 3 turns. Now, this card doesn't go to graveyard, it kind of it goes in a limbo. It's sorry, wait. No, it actually goes into the graveyard first, and if your opponent doesn't destroy it in your graveyard, it goes from the graveyard back into the deck and it is drawn right away. So the only time this card can be banished is if, let's say, he plays a squirrel, and the squirrel can banish a card from your graveyard. So that's a nasty card. Now, this one, for example, it says Devotion. So let's say you have no neutral cards in your deck, and you spawn Frost on both sides of your opponent battlefield. That means that this card will be automatically drawn from your deck onto the battlefield, and now this is something very cool. So let's say the round is about to end, and you click pass, or basically there is no more turns to play, no more cards to play. What happens is that if you say, let's have 5/5, Frost on your opponent's side, so that's 10 Frost in total, this dude will be boosted by double of that amount, which is by 20, so that's kind of wild. Okay. Let's see what else can be here. What's interesting? Of course, this card should be played as a devotion card because it says destroy self. Of course, cancel the ability because if it's devotion, then you will not be destroyed. Quite simple. Yeah, so that's about it. Of course, there are cards with immunity. For example, this cat that I told you about for Thrive. So at the start of the game, gain immunity. So this cat has immunity when you play it. Now, when you deploy, it says boost self by 0. Of course, you will not be boosted. However, every time you click this is an order card. Every time you click on it, you can replay the card. Now the boost value will jump by 2. So you replay itself, and units placed on your opponent's side can trigger your Thrive abilities. So if you have on your board some Thrive units, and if this cat is on the battlefield as well, if your opponent plays, let's say, units of 5 power and your Thrive cards have 4, all of them will be boosted, even though you didn't play the card. He played, but because of the cat, everyone is getting boosted. Now, it's not hard to destroy the cat in any way because you see the power is very low. However, the first time it has immunity, you can just keep it like that in terms of protecting. If you don't want to use this card to replay it, it can be used only in terms of letting your opponent activate Thrive of your cards. So you can just put it on the field without boosting anything. Of course, that depends on many factors, but I don't know, it's up to you how you play. So this is kind of the first video I wanted to pass through for monsters. I don't know what else. Of course, there are bleeding cards, but I'm not going into that because I don't have much bleeding cards here. So yes.